Yo, what's up, everybody? It is your boy Brandon, and if you are here today, you are interested in the brand new, all new Sony A7R V. That's right, we have it here. It is finally home. I could not wait to get my hands back on this thing. As soon as we went to our event up in New York, the launch of the brand new A7R V, man, I just had to get it because it was just an absolute joy to have, to play with, to shoot with, to record with. And so what I wanted to do is tell you guys or show you guys really how I set up all my Sony cameras. This one is pretty much no different. Of course, there are some new things in the menu system that I want to go over with you. So might as well kick back, get your coffee, because we are about to dive into the whole menu system of the A7R V. Now, I'm not going to hit on everything, but I want to show you guys how I set up the A7R V for photography, and we're going to go over a few video things for you guys who are video. So a lot of these things in this video is going to be very basic, all right? And then there's some things that we're going to get into that are going to be a little bit more complex. So strap in. This is going to be a long video, and I hope you guys enjoy. So comment, like, and subscribe. Let's get to the video. What's up, guys? I want to introduce you to the all-new Sony A7R V. This is your brand new 61 megapixel full frame CMOS sensor camera. It has the new Bionic XR and AI processing unit, which a lot of us is really excited about the new AI software. It shoots 8K 24p, and it does go 4K 60p, and you can get up to 120p in full HD 10-bit video. It does have 4K 16-bit raw output recording for S-Log3 and S-Cinetone. It has the new 9.44 million .EVF, a new 3.2-inch 4-axis multi-display angle touchscreen. This touchscreen is absolutely incredible. I love it. I love all the variable angles that I can do with it, and I'm so excited to use it. It has 10 FPS shooting with AF and AE tracking. It has 8-stop 5-axis stabilization, guys. And it does have your dual CFast Express A and SD card slots. So let's get into the brand new A7R V. What's up, everybody? It is your boy Brandon, man, and I want to thank you guys for rocking with me today. All right, this is all unscripted. This is just me and my knowledge of Sony cameras, and just going over some basic things with you about the new Sony A7R V. So like I said already in the opening, it tells you everything about this, and a lot of you guys have already looked in or saw all the specs with the new Sony A7R V. And yeah, so we're just going to get into some basic stuff. So now I just want to point out a few things around the camera before we actually look at the actual menu system. All right, so this camera is set up pretty much exactly like the A7 IV. You have your mode dial, and then you have your toggle dial for camera, video, and slow and quick, or S and Q, under the mode dial, which is the same toggle switch exactly like the A7 IV. You have your 4 custom buttons. You have your C2 and C2 and record button right next to each other. Your on and off switch. Either your aperture, shutter speed, however you do the front dial here. You have your custom dial right here for your back dial, whether you use it for, again, shutter speed or aperture. You have your custom EF dial now, because we can customize the EF dial now. And then moving to the back, you have your C1, C2, C3 button, your menu button, your AF button, AEL button, and then pretty much everything is still set up the exact same way. On the top, you have your hot shoe, your multi-hot shoe switch, because that can be used for a lot of different things. On the other side, you have your microphone jack. You have a headphone jack. You also have your Type C. You also have your full HDMI port and your flash sync port. So you can also trigger other flashes using their flash sync port if they are capable. On the memory side, we have slot 1 at the top, slot 2 at the bottom. Again, I have 2 SD cards in here. I am not using CFast Express A cards because they are just way too expensive, man. I would rather get SD cards that are V60 or V90 than to use CFast Express cards, and they work fine. The great thing about the Sony A7R V is now we can use V60 cards to record 8K. So once we actually get into more videos of the A7R V, and as I continue to do testing, I will be showing you what it's like to record on V60 cards now in 8K. My A1 can only use V90 cards or CFast Express A cards. All right, so this is your main basic setup of your camera. On the front, you have your IR button, you have your lens release button. Nothing, all of that is pretty much the same. Now the variable 4-axis touchscreen. Absolutely love this screen. When I was in New York, just turning and twisting this thing, man, I was just so excited because I was able to, you know me, I like angles. I like doing all kind of things. And the only way that I'm really able to get really low angle shots looking up is with my A7 IV. So sometimes I have to put my A1 down. But being able to combine all of that in the Sony A7R V, man, I just had to get it. So let's go ahead and dive into the menu system. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to hook up the Atomos here. Now, starting with the menu system. Let me get out of there. So, as you guys know, starting off, you have my menu system. Now, I really love the my menu system because whether I'm shooting video or whether I'm shooting portraits, I like my menu system because there's a lot of things that I use that I just don't have time to look for. And all of my Sony cameras are set up like this. So if I'm doing portraits, I like to go ahead and go in there and change whatever I need to, but I need to get to it quick. Sometimes I just need to get to it quick. I have my function menu, but it doesn't have all the stuff that I need. So there might be some things outside of the function menu that I need to get to real quick. So that's why I use my menu system. Now with the new Sony A7R V, it has the main page similar to the FX30 now and also the FX3. Now, I really don't know how I feel about this main menu system, and I will tell you why. And it's mainly because I use my menu. So right now, I'm in portrait mode, and it has one page for portrait mode, and it basically just goes over and shows you basically everything that you have dialed in right now for portraits. If I was to change this to video, I'm sorry, not slow and quick. If I was to change this to video, then you're going to get two menu systems. You're going to get a main menu system 1 and the main menu system 2. On main 1 for you videographers out there, it's going to go over your frame rates, your shutter speeds, everything. And as you can see, some of these things are grayed out because it's basically just telling you what your stuff is set up for right now. Just in case you just want to look over it real fast and look at it real quick, it shows you everything right now. And then you can go in there and adjust the different things in there to what you need it to do. So right now, like I said, my camera is not set up for video. So what you're just seeing is just what it's set up on right now. On main page 2 and a lot of different things. So this is what the menu system looks like right now. So I'm going to go back to portrait. So let's go ahead and go back into the system and we're going to go down to the first page. All right. Image quality. So this is set up as JPEG. I don't set this up as HEIF because some things are not compatible with HEIF. Everything is really compatible with JPEG, just in case you need those JPEG files. So you can choose between JPEG or HEIF files. So mine is up to JPEG, the first one. Image quality settings. For file format, I have mine set up to just RAW. Sometimes I do RAW plus JPEG. I don't really do that all the time. But I actually have started setting mine up to RAW plus JPEG just in case there's any type of problem. So the redundancy is well worth it. So if you want to set up to RAW plus JPEG, you'll go here, RAW plus JPEG. And then I also set mine up to RAW uncompressed. Now, this is a 61 megapixel camera. RAW uncompressed gives you double that file size. So you might get some files that are 118, 119, 120. I like all the data. Some people might say that, you know, you can just set up it as RAW compressed. You don't need all of that, whatever. I like all the data. I don't care how you set yours up. I like all the data, all the colors. I like everything that's coming to me. So I always set mine up as RAW uncompressed. I have plenty of room on my computers and hard drives and all of that stuff. I like RAW uncompressed. For you people that don't shoot RAW uncompressed and you don't have the storage, you probably want to go to RAW compressed. Now you also have lawless compressed, which is a bigger file size, almost the same quality as uncompressed, but it's compressed, but it's a large compressed file. All right. Then you have a medium lawless compressed, which is giving you that uncompressed image quality, but it's taking it away a little bit at a time. So with large, you're getting a large compressed file, but it's uncompressed. You know what I'm saying? So that's when you get small, medium, large, and then you just get compressed. All right. So, yeah, mine is set up as uncompressed right now. So JPEG, I always do extra fine. If I'm gonna do JPEG, I want the highest quality JPEG. All right. JPEG 60 megapixels. All right. And then what you want to do is you want to go into media settings, and this is where you're going to designate how your files are saved on your memory cards. So slot 1, I have it as, right now it's saying RAW plus JPEG are both going to be recorded on slot 1. Slot 2 is just going to be the video file. So I don't want that. I want to be able to record my RAW on one memory card and put the JPEGs on another memory card. So in order to separate RAW plus JPEG, you need to go into slot 1. Now, as you can see, slot 1 says your media recording. It has a little camera icon right there on the side. Then one has the video recording icon right there. So we want to separate the RAW and JPEG. So what we're going to do is you're going to go into slot 1, but then you're going to go to sort recording. Here's the thing. Now, when you go to sort recording, now sometimes it might break it up and it might just say JPEG and JPEG. So what you will have to do is you will have to go into here, go into your image quality settings, and make sure you set it for slot 1 to be RAW again. Sometimes it might revert back to JPEG and JPEG. Just go back in here to slot 1 and put RAW. And again, you know that you're in RAW uncompressed because RAW uncompressed has that white box around it, as you can see with the black RAW letters. If I was in anything else, you can see how it differentiates between lawless and also RAW. So that lets me know that I'm in RAW uncompressed when I see the white box around my RAW file. All right. So again, everything is good. So going on down, so aspect ratio, let me go back. All right, so aspect ratio 3.2. This is just your basic dimensions for your photos. We're going to leave it at that. Again, you can always record it in 1:1 or 16:9 if you're just recording something specifically for social media or something that you know is going to be like horizontal or whatever. You can always set that up. I always keep it with 3.2. File format. So right now, mine is set up at 4K HS. I always record in HS, which is H.265 for the best recording, but minimum video files. So I'm always really at 4K HS. Now, as you can see, we also have 8K, we have HS, you have 4K, your 4K standard, you have your HD standard, but then you have your all-eye 4K, and you have your all-eye HD. So I will show you a little bit of what both of these mean. So in 8K, you can only record in 24p, 200 megabytes, 420. All right. Maybe in the future they might come out with an update that allows us to record in 4K, 8K 30, 8K 60. You never know. But right now, 8K can only be recorded in 24p. All right. So let's go ahead and change this back now to what I normally record in 4K HS, which is great because I love H.265. Amazing file size, amazing video quality. So in 4K HS, you can only record in 4K 60 and 4K 24p. All right. Recording settings, I always go with the highest bit rate because I want to make sure I have the best quality. So mine is set to 100 megabytes, 422, 10-bit 422. All right. You can change those, but I highly recommend you leave it at the highest quality and adjust your storages or whatever you need to get that high quality. All right, going to, if you record in standard H.264 and you're not ready for H.265, you can also do that. That also allows you to record in 4K 30. All right, so if you're recording in 4K HD, or I'm sorry, if you're recording just 4K standard H.264, you will get the option to record in 4K 30 along with 4K 60 and 4K 24. All right, and then going to HD. If you're recording in just regular 1080p and you're not ready for 4K, you can set it to 4K, and then that will also allow you to record in 4K 24p, 30p, 60p, and up to 120p in HD, which is 1080p. All right, make sure everybody understands that. Your record setting, you want it to record in the highest bit rate, you can record at 50 megabits 422 10-bit. So you can record 1080p in 10-bit 422. All right. Some of you guys that may be just enough for you guys. So I'm gonna go ahead and set mine back to 4K, and I'm going to set mine back to the highest 24p right now, and 100 megabits a second. All right, moving right along. APS-C Super 35 mode. Absolutely, I have mine set to auto. Sometimes I put on some of my other lenses that are APS-C. That just comes out automatically. That way, if I'm shooting, I don't forget to make sure that it is in Super 35 mode. Long exposure, I have that off. A lot of these are only going to really affect you if you're shooting in JPEG. Long exposure, I always have that off. A lot of these settings you're going to find off that I have off, because if I'm shooting RAW, I want to be able to mimic and do everything I want to my file myself. I don't want my camera to tell my file anything, all right? So again, some of these are only going to be good in JPEG, but I have long exposure off. High noise, I have that. I set high noise ISO. I set that to off also. Color space, sRGB, lens compensation. I have all of those set to off. Shading compensation, chromatic aberration, distortion. Again, these are really going to affect you if you're shooting JPEG, not really if you shoot in RAW. All right. So, going back, let's see here. So we did all of those under there. Going back now. All right. So media. This is where you would format your slot 1 memory card or slot 2. Record media settings is coming to stuff that we've already went through in a different phase up there. It just links together. Record image database. Now this is really important. A lot of times if you lose your files on your memory card and you don't see them, what you do is you're supposed to go into recover image database. And a lot of times if you don't see those, you go in there and it won't format your memory card. What it does, it will help you try to recover those images from that actual card. So if I was to go in here and hit recover image database, it will ask me which database or which memory card slot do I want to try to recover those images from, and you pick that memory card slot. So that's what that's for, just in case. All right. Display media info. This just tells you that the displays the remaining space of the memory, whatever's on that memory card. All right. Going on down. So file folder settings. I think this is cool. I set mine up because I shoot with all Sony cameras, the A1, the A7 IV, A7S III. When I put those files into my computer, sometimes I don't know where those files or what camera that came from. So I always set a designator to my memory card. So in this one, as you can see, I set my file name to A7R V. So that means any files that are on my memory card that I set into my computer, it's going to show that it's set with A7R V, which means they came from my A7R V. Now you can go in here and you can change your name or what have you right in here in the menu system. You would just go down, click on the highlight, and since this is touchscreen, it makes it easier because it's touchscreen and you don't have to use your wheel for everything. All right. So mine is set to A7R5. Going back out, so you can select the record folder. These are folders I'm not going through. Create a folder in IPTC. Copyright info. I have this baked into all my files. So copyright. I have my copyright info on, so I can set to photographer. As you can see, I'm already there. And set to copyright, I can see that you can see this already there. And you can go to if you want to display the copyright info or not. So when you do that, if you go back to your main main system, you see there's a little C up there at the top. All right, that's your copyright logo. You can put that on there, or you don't have to put that on there. If I go to off, you'll see that it goes away. All right, guys. Moving on to our next part of this menu system, shooting mode. So memory recall. This is really, really important, especially for you videographers out there. Memory recall is super important. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but this is where you would go to dial in your custom settings for how you want your settings to show instantaneously. So especially when I do video, if I'm doing talking heads like this, I was shooting 4K 24p. But then if I go on location, I want to get some B-roll, some behind the scenes, I want to get some slow motion a little bit, I can change it to 4K 60, or I can do 1080p, 120 or whatever. So it allows you to get to those settings really, really fast. And I have all my cameras set up the same way. So I can go to 4K 24, 4K 60, or 4K, 120 on my A7S3. So that's where you would do this at, right here in this menu. So you would go in here right now. If I'm shooting 1/68th of a second f5 and everything ISO is on auto, what happens is I will go into here and I will go into camera set, or camera set memory. And then I will set that to where I wanted to. So right now, if I wanted to set it on memory number 1, I will press that and then it would register right there. And then you go, and then what happens is if you want to change your settings, or for something else, 4K, something, you would go back in here and you would go over to number 2, and then you will set that also. So now let's go down, memory recall media. You can also put that on on your memory card also. So if you want to put those settings into another camera, or you want to set that in here, you can also put those on a memory card. Register custom shoot, I'm not going to go over this, but this is a recall custom hold button. So you're able to customize an actual button and hold it down, and it actually goes to those settings for that specific custom button, and you can register that, and then that's what that is. So that's a memory recall custom hold button. Pretty cool. All right. And what happens is you hold that button and it deviates to those settings that you have, so you can do that. All right, going down. Drive mode. Again, these are things that you can set up. Right now, mine is in single shooting. I have bracketing off. I'm not going to do bracketing. I have interval shooting off. We're not really dealing with that. Pixel shift, multi-shooting mode. I'm not using pixel shift, so none of that stuff is set up. Shutter silent mode. So silent mode right now is off. I will be turning that on a lot of times, especially when I shoot weddings and things. You can turn silent mode on. And then what I would do is I would assign it to a function button right here, so I can get to it really, really fast. I won't set it up as a custom button on my camera, but I will put it in my menu system to set it up for silent mode like that. So I will use silent mode for that. Target function settings, I'm not gonna go over that. Mechanical shutter type, mine normally stays on mechanical shutter unless I'm shooting at really, really fast shutter speeds. Electronic front curtain off. All right. A lot of times when you get noise or a lot of things in your picture, sometimes it's because that front curtain is on. I found it best to have that off, but you want to make sure definitely that is off. All right, so let's go to release without lens, release without cars. Now, this is important, and I always pretty much have this disabled. What that basically means is it's your shutter release. Your camera will not fire if you do not have a memory card in it. So right now, I have a memory card right here, but right now it's disabled. So if I go to release without card, it's disabled. Now, if I try to take a picture, is going to come up with this error: cannot open the shutter since there is no memory card in there. And that's what you want. You never want to be on a shoot thinking that you have a memory card in there, and that's the worst thing in the world, to go through and take a bunch of pictures and you don't have a memory card in. So if you leave this enabled, all right, you'll be able to shoot. All right, you don't want that. All right, so I always disable this. So there is no shutter if I don't have a lens. There is no shutter if I don't have a memory card. All right. Anti-flicker. And also you have anti-flicker and you have variable shutter right here. So anti-flicker set is something that I only use if I'm shooting pretty much like indoors because of the ambient light, and it helps with the flickering. But again, that's really only something that I use in video mode, not photo mode. Steady shot is on. You definitely want to make sure you have that on for stabilization. It's set to auto. I'm going to keep going down. I do not have zoom in. And then if you are shooting in RAW, this is disabled. So you can't use zoom if you are shooting in RAW. Let's go ahead. Let's see, going down. Shooting display. Some of you guys like this. Some people don't. I do not use this. All right. Again, a rule of thirds normally times, a lot of times anyway, is only used if you use video because it helps you to center your subject in whatever you're videoing. But yeah, I don't use a grid. There's too much stuff on my screen. It gets in my way. I don't like rule of thirds. Sorry. I've been shooting long enough to know where the center is and how I want to shoot. So if you want that, that's there for you. Live display effect on. This is really, really important. I will always have this set up for studio also. So this will be something that is always on my camera. Because when I'm in the studio, that the whole, what you see, what you get, it kind of goes out the window. So I have to be able to make it really dark in there and take pictures. But when I do that, then I can turn my live view off, and then it just goes back to optical instead of digital. All right. So let's see, going on down. Bold timer settings. I'm not dragging my shutter or anything like that. But if you was to drag your shutter, if you guys do long exposure, a thing like that, that's where you would use that setting. Exposure compensation, you can set this to more than a third of a stop. Most of all, excuse me, most of our cameras are all set to a third. All right, I've always went by that. I've always gone by that. So this is where you set your exposure compensation. There might be some cameras out there that are more than a third. You might be able to, you can set it to other stuff. You know what I'm saying? You can set it to a full stop if you want to. You can set it to every 2 stops. All right. Mine is set to a third, and that's where my steps are at. So that's what I want. All right. Medium mode, I normally always keep this on multi unless I'm looking at something really, really specific. Then I might set it to center. Face priority and multi-metering is good. You can have that on. That is really good when you get to registering faces and everything. But again, if you are shooting portraits, you want that face priority and multi-metering on because it meters for your subject also. So I always have that on. AEL with shutter off. I never use this AEL button over here really for anything. All right. So I always like to customize that. And normally I use that for my gamma assist because I shoot in S-Log a lot. So going on down. All right. So fill mode. All right. So I always normally use fill flash. I don't use rear curve sync or front curve sync if I need my flash to come after the picture and all of that. So mine is always set to fill flash. Exposure compensation set, ambient and flash. I use that on there. Wireless flash. If you're having problems with your flash and it's not flashing, make sure wireless flash is on. If you shoot with Westcott for some reason, since we have to have that adapter for the older XJ2, now I don't think you need it for the new XJ3 trigger, but you have to turn that wireless flash off in order to use it with Westcott. That trigger. I don't know if that's still the same with because of that adapter on the Westcott. I don't know if that's still the same with the new trigger, but that's where your wireless flash is. External flashes, you don't have to mess with that because there is no external flashes attached to the top. Let's see here. Regular shooting mode. Let's see here. Regular flash shooting set. I'm not going to mess with any of that. White balance is set to auto right now. Again, if I was shooting inside, if I'm dealing with ambient light or something like that, then I will adjust my white balance accordingly. All right. Let me see. D-range optimizer, creative look, and all of these things over in your color tone. So D-range optimizer, I always leave that off. Again, I shoot in RAW, so I never want anything to affect my pictures in my camera. I want to do everything manually, so I always have the D-range optimizer off. Creative look, I'm using in standard. The only time I would change this is if I want to shoot like black and white and I want to see what it looks like in camera. I will set that creative look sometimes to black and white. You can play around with it. It's been on my camera for a long time, but normally I'll always leave it in standard. Also, a lot of times I know a lot of people who might boost the saturation and vibrance in here a little bit, trying to match those kind of Canon colors because Canon is just a little bit oversaturated more than Sony is. That's where you can go in there and actually adjust each one if you want to. You can adjust the highlights, the shadows, saturation and everything. If you want to get that actual look a specific way out of camera, you can do that right in camera there. Picture profile, again, for shooting portraits, my picture profile normally is always set to off. But again, if I'm shooting in video, that's going to be in PP8. All right. Let me make sure we still have that one down here. All right. So we still do have PP8 here, which is your S-Log3. That's normally what I shoot in. Now, the thing is, on the FX30, the PP8 or your S-Logs are not under here anymore. They're moved to another location. They're actually moved to up there near the main menu system or whatever. But in the A7R5, the S-Log is still in the same exact location. All right, moving on down. Zebras, I really normally don't play with zebras. I call my own exposure. Again, this is only important for me if I'm doing video. All right, AFMF. Focusing mode right now, again, automatic. I normally set this to continuous AF, all right? Especially when I'm shooting portraits. I like continuous because my models are always kind of like moving, and I always want to make sure my focusing is moving with them, especially with the new AI technology. That focusing is greatly improved. So I think shooting in continuous on a new A7R5 is going to be so seamless. So mine is definitely always going to be set to continuous AF. Balance, emphasis, and now shooting and now again, AF single does not really matter. Shooting priority setting your AFC. So in AFC, you can prioritize your continuous to be set to more AF or be set to your shutter release. I normally leave it balanced. I don't really do a lot with that. I haven't really noticed a big difference, but I always normally set to balance. Sometimes I might send it to AF if I definitely think that I'm going to have a problem with focusing. I will set the priority to autofocus rather than release of my shutter. All right. So tracking sensitivity, again, none of this is really important if I'm using portraits. But again, AF tracking sensitivity, you can have it more responsive and locked on if you want to. You can set it. I normally leave it in standard. AF illuminating. Some people like this, some people don't. I don't mind it in portraits. Again, if I'm shooting weddings, I don't want that, especially if it's dark or something like that. You never know. I don't want that AF, that red illuminating button when I lock focus to be an interference. Sometimes people like it. Sometimes if it doesn't make a big deal, leave it alone. If it's a big deal to you, turn it off. To me, it's not a big deal. But I do just understand where it is if you need to turn that off. And again, that could be something that you can put in the My Menu. If you're a wedding photography, that's something that I would add to the My Menu system. Something that you can get to really, 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 really quick. All right. Aperture drive mode. Again, this is how fast your aperture focuses. I don't really care for that. I leave it in standard. Autofocus with your shutter button. Of course, that's going to be an on. That's telling you that you want your shutter to be the focus, how you focus. I don't do back button focus. I think it's dumb. I never even understood the purpose of back button focus. My shutter is my AF button. Pre-AF. My pre-AF is always set to off. Big reason for that is because if you have pre-AF on, even when you're walking with your camera, it's going to try to focus on stuff. And the more it tries to focus or give you that pre-autofocus, is also draining your battery. So I always have pre-autofocus off. I never use it. Focus area and all these things can be changed. Right now it's set to wide. I normally shoot on wide just in case. But if I need to dial in my focus a little bit more, I can switch it right there, no problem. Focus area limit. Some of these I might get rid of, just a personal preference. I don't normally shoot with all these expanded and tracking and center. I mean, some of these things are good if you need to track or whatever. Sometimes I will leave them if I don't wear them. Sometimes, but it is whatever. Switch vertical, horizontal AF area. I leave this off. This is basically telling you or asking you if you want to switch your AF depending on whether you're shooting vertical or horizontal orientation, depending on how you switch. If you switch, your focusing switches with it. I don't have anything switched. I leave it exactly how it is. Focus area is white. I've always had it white on all my cameras. Autofocus registration. I leave that to off. I'm not using any of that AF auto clear. I don't mess with any of that either. I use the area display during tracking. That's because if you lock onto something, it will focus. It will lock onto the area, and it'll give you that box around there. And that's what that area display is. So even if you locked onto a model or a eye or something, when you lock onto that area, it puts that box around it instead of the continuous dots continuing to grow. It'll actually lock on. So I'll leave that on. AFC, this area display, those, like I said, are the little dots right now. If you turn it off, you will see there is no dots now with me trying to autofocus. All right. So you want your autofocus, see what it's focusing on. The area is on. Phase detection, I leave that off. I'm not messing with area phase detection because that creates a whole nother thing. Circular of focusing point. I always use circulate. So basically what that means is that when you're using, and again, you have to change your focusing point for this if you use this, but I will just quickly show you what that means. For focus area, if you go down to something where you're moving your focusing point, if I move it to the side like this, if you have do not circulate, it is going to stop right here at the edge of your focus. If you have circulate, it's going to keep going and it's going to go around the whole screen like this. So that's what circulate and do not circulate means. If I go up and down, it'll just circulate. It'll keep going. If you don't, it'll go through the screen or whatever. I like it when it does that, honestly. I don't like it to stop at the top. I might need to, if I'm down here and I need to get back to the top real quick, I would just rather just go down and be right there than to just have it hold it and take it all the way up to the top. Just minor little things like that, but I always leave that to circulate when I am in dealing with my focusing. Moving right along. You can select whether it focuses on the right or left eye. I just leave that auto because you never know if they're going to move left to right. Face memory, absolutely incredible. So I love this. So if I was to use face memory, basically what I would go do is go in here. If you want to, if this is able to focus on somebody out of the crowd of people. So if I put that face in that memory bank in here, and when I'm focusing, the camera is going to only focus on that face. It does a really good job of not focusing on anything else but whatever that face that's registered in there. This is extremely great for wedding photographers, and also when you have brides and grooms and things like that, and you don't want the focus to jump all over the place, and you want it to focus on that one individual subject. Definitely register their face and get that done before everything starts. And you can do that. And that's where you do that right now. What you would do is you would go in here to face memory. You would go in here, the frame would come up. You would put that person in the frame. And then, look, maybe I can do it over here. Whatever. But there you go. It said, and it'll tell you, if it doesn't get a good face, it won't be able to register. But that's where you to record the face. And then you would go in here to register your face priorities. You would have that on if you want your registered faces to be the priority. If you don't want your registered faces to be your priority, switch it to off. All right. Peaking a display. So peaking display, I normally leave this on mid and everything. I have my color always red. Again, this is something that is going to be more important to me if I am in portrait mode. If I'm in video mode, not portrait mode. And if I'm using something, because it helps me to know what's in focus and what's not in focus. But this is also really great in portrait mode if I'm shooting manual focus, because if I manually focus something, I want it to turn red to help me or compensate me to let me know what is in focus and what is not in focus. So that's why I have that. That's why it's on. Right now it's set to mid, and that's how the rest of my cameras are set up. All right. Moving right along. So playback. Not spending a lot of time in all this playback stuff, but playback medium, how you're going to look at your magnification, how you're going to look at your stuff if you play it back. You can use to protect images and stuff. You can have a custom button set up when you want your model something to rate how they like their portraits and stuff like that. Smartphone connection, really, really great. Again, these are stuff that, we go over a lot of times in our other stuff. If you want to register this with your smartphone, like the Play Memory, I don't even think it's called Play Memory anymore. It's called Imaging something app. You would go in here, you can scan the barcode, and this way this can communicate with your app so you can control and send images from your A7R V to your phone seamlessly. It works pretty well. Not a problem with it. Sometimes it's a little bit buggy, but that's where you would go to register your smartphone or your camera connectivity. USB streaming. So in here, you can USB stream with the A7R V. Your output, you can actually stream up to 4K, HD 1080p 3060, or HD 720. So when you want to get a good USB streaming, especially if you use something like a third-party application, you can set that to 4K and have the best image quality in the room, and everybody's going to be asking you, why is your video looking so good? Because you can now use the A7R V, just like I can use my A7 IV to USB stream, and I absolutely love it. You can also set this movie recording doing live stream, just in case you want to download or have it on your camera at the same time you are streaming live. You can also have it set to record on your memory at the same time. So sometimes this is really, really great. Sometimes it's not. But it will tell you also, if you enable this, the power consumption is going to be much greater. So I highly recommend, if you're going to be using this as a camera, make sure you have it connected to a power source, because it is going to drain your battery very, very fast if you try to record it to a memory and also live stream with it at the same time. So just be cognizant of that if you want that to happen. All right. Wi-Fi, you know everything about Wi-Fi, you know everything about your Bluetooth. This is where you set your Bluetooth on and off. Again, be cognizant. If you're not using Bluetooth, set it to off, or you can just leave it on if it doesn't affect you. But understand that having a Bluetooth on or off does also drain your battery. All right, here we go. Moving right along. Wire LAN, nobody's messing with that. Airplane mode, this is where you would set that at. Your language, your airtime and date, whether this is going to be NTSC or PAL, is also on here. Right now, of course, it's set to NTSC because we are in America. Let's see here, settings. You can also, now this is really, really cool also. You can also save and load your settings from a memory card also. So I have saw that I've used this a few times where I would like to save all of my settings on my camera and then put that. Now, I haven't tried to take memory or settings from another camera and load it into here. I will try it just to see if it works, and then I'll update the comments. I've never actually tried it, but yeah, we'll see it. But this is where you would do that at. So anyway, moving right along. Operation customization. You're going to spend a lot of time in these next two menus, because operation customization is where you are going to customize all the buttons on your camera, all right? Your AEL button, your focus standard button, all of that stuff. So, all right, so let me show you a few things on how I set my camera up for portrait. So, we're going to start with the rear here. So, number one is going to be where your AEL button is, right over here on the side. I like to set up my AEL button to my live view display select. And this is mainly for studio, because if I'm in a studio and I'm downloading my settings and I'm shooting at f8 and shutter, everything in there is going to be really, really dark. So that whole, what you see is what you get, kind of like goes out the window. So we have to turn our camera then to optical, like a DSLR. So I always set that live display off, and as soon as you set it, as soon as you turn that live display off, then it comes back up, because now it's looking through the lens. So it's not digital anymore. So we set that live display, and I like to go back and forth through that really, really quick. I don't want to play in my menu system. I don't want to, come from shooting outside to shooting inside and have to play in the menu system and find out where that button is. So that's why I set that right there. Let's see here. Next is going to be your AF on button. My AF on button, I like to set that to autofocus or manual select. I like that because a lot of times if I'm shooting and I need to jump into manual mode really, really fast, I like to press a button. So I could be holding my camera like this, and then if I need to go to manual, bam, I'm there. All right, it's just so much easier with that. Instead of looking for everything, I just like doing that. All right. Let me see here. White balance for number 3. I have my white balance sitting right there. That can stay right there. Number C4, which is where your trash can is. Now, this is extremely important. Every Sony camera that I have is set up like this. This is going to be my, Let me find it. There it is. APS-C to full frame. When I'm shooting, I love to be able to punch in really, really fast if I need to. All right. So that is going, I always set my trash can up to be my APS-C or go to full frame. I got to be able to go in really, really fast. All right. Now, normally it's set up to touchscreen. I don't really care for that. If I need it, I will put it in my function menu, but that has to be my full frame. And I also actually set that in video the same exact way. All right. Focus standard. That's the multi-select. So that's if you push your joystick in. I don't really use that. I leave it the way it is. Number 2 is your the middle of your little circle thing there. I don't really mess with that either. Drive mode, all of these, how it's already set up. I don't mess with any of these because they're all set on all my cameras. All of them the exact same way. Number 5 is not set either. I don't really set that to anything, but if I need something, I might set something in there. But as far as I understand, none of my cameras are set to anything where 5 is number used for anything. Number 1 is your record button, so that's going to be your shooting. Number 2 is going to be your focus area. I always leave that right next to it. So if you need to go from wide to expandable to whatever type of focus area you in, always leave that right there. Focus hold button, I don't mess with that. Now, this is pretty cool. So you can set, now I don't have this on my other cameras. So in the A7R V, you can separate your manual mode and other modes. So you have manual mode, and then you have something like slow and quick and everything. So for example, if my front dial right here was used to adjust my shutter or your aperture, you can have it. If I put a check mark in this box where it says separate M mode and other modes, I can have that do other things if I'm in another mode, if that makes sense. So if I'm in manual pictures, I can have it do something. If I'm in another mode, I can have my front dial do something else. Depending on the mode that I go to, you can separate that. Or if you take the check mark out, it'll be the same in all your other modes. Video, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on here because your video stuff is definitely going to be much different from mine. So I'm not going to spend time in here, but I will tell you number 4, where my trash can is, it has to be set to Super 35. All right, which is right there. And also, if I'm shooting right here where my AEL button is, like I told you before, it has to be Gamma Display Assist, all right? Because we do shoot in S-Log3 a lot. So we want to be able to go to see what it shows in S-Log3 and what it's showing if it's not in S-Log3, like how it would look if you was to color grade it, right? So menu settings, here's a few things. You can customize your function settings and your function menu settings for whatever you need it to show, whether you be in portrait mode or video mode. So in here you would do that. There's some things that are more important to me in photo mode that is in video mode. Like in video mode, I might use zebras. I might use peaking. I like to use a lot of those things. Your microphone voice. A lot of these things are more important in video than portraits. Whether you're shooting active, standard, your stabilization. Very, very important. So you want to be able to get to those things again faster than what you normally do. So screen display set. So this is all the stuff that's going to come up on your screen. If you hit the up button, it's going to show all these things. So you can have it show what you want it to show and have it show what you don't want it to show. So again, you can set this to whether you can do it if you're looking through the LCD or if you're looking at the monitor. All right. So you would go in here and set these things. If you want your histogram to show, me personally, I don't care about histogram. I'm pretty good with all that stuff. No info. You can have it whether you want the exposure on or the exposure off. If you want the no info but the exposure on, you can have that. If you want at least the exposure on, you can also have that also. So no info, but we want the exposure on. Or you can just say, I don't want nothing on at all. And you can do that also. So histogram is off. Your leveler, your viewfinder. For your viewfinder, I don't care about that. And then your monitor. So turn that. And then record with shutter. So this also is if you want to be able to not use the shutter, the record button, but you want to be able to use the shutter button, you can do that. Now, a lot of people in video mode, if you're recording yourself, since this is not like the FX3 or the FX30 where you have a record button in the front, all right? The way that a lot of people do it when you get away with it is if you are recording yourself and you don't want to fill up here for the record button, you can just hit the shutter button and it can record that way also. So that might be something that you might want to incorporate if you do a lot of selfies and you need to record yourself. Instead of filling for where the record button is, you can set it to record with your shutter. All right. Mine is set to off. All right. Custom key dial sets and stuff like that. All right. So I'm going to show you what this says. Now, this is something that's pretty cool too because I didn't have this on my other camera. So, assigns desired functions to the button or dial, sets the function becomes available in still image mode. Under the next one, it assigns desired functions to the button or dial. This function, the set function becomes available while the shoot mode is set in movie mode. So basically what that's saying is that you can have these set in portrait mode. Regardless of whatever portrait mode you go to, these things will always be set the same. All right. And you can also separate these. So if you separate them, you can have it set again to other stuff or whatever. I leave it alone. In video, you can also, if you want say for instance, if you are shooting in video mode, but you also want your video dials or your settings to be different in other shooting modes, then you can have these functions do other things in other shooting modes, or be available in all modes. So it really just depends on how you want to set it up. Me personally right now, I leave it alone. All right, so right here, my dial settings, you can have your front dial, your left dial, your right dial, do a lot of different things depending on how many times you move it or click it. So if you click it once, it'll do something. If you click it twice or you click it 3 times, it'll do other things. Me personally, I leave it alone. I don't need that. But that's really, really up to you. Your shutter in your aperture, you can have that. This is where you would set it up to normal, or you would do reversal. Okay. And lock operation parts. You can lock operation parts. So if you're using it, you won't be able to use it. It'll lock it in place just in case you don't want to inadvertently hit something that you don't need to. Touch operation right now, I have it on sensitivity, standard, touchpad, all of that stuff. Screen reader, I don't really get into too much of that stuff. I'm not really worried about that right now. Field monitor. So select your monitor so you can have it. This will allow you to say, for instance, if I'm shooting portraits, so if I'm shooting portraits, this goes back and forth, whether if I'm shooting portraits right here and I'm looking at the LCD itself, I'm looking at the LCD. But as soon as I put my eye up to the EVF, the image immediately switches to the EVF. That's why it says auto. So it can tell whether you're sitting right here or, the sensor will tell you if you put your eye up to it, then it'll immediately go to the EVF. So that is something that you can set to auto. Now, in video mode, I normally keep that to Finder or Viewfinder, all right? Because I don't normally look at it. I'm sorry. I normally leave this to monitor because I don't know who normally looks through an EVF when they're doing video. So in video mode, that's always normally set to monitor. But I don't look at my EVF a lot when I'm doing portraits. I do sometimes not. Sometimes it can get annoying when you're hitting that and your screen goes away when you're trying to take pictures and everything. If I'm turning it and my arm or something gets in the way, then it's going to automatically feel like that you're putting your eye up there. So again, that's where you would adjust that. Monitor brightness is set to manual. I normally leave this at 0. I normally always leave my monitor set at 0 because I feel sometimes that if I set it too bright, if I'm using flash, it's going to look brighter than what I actually took the picture. And I want to be able to basically look at it exactly how it is in camera. So I don't want any overexposed. I don't want any more brightness than what is supposed to be set to 0. So again, personal preference, that's just me. Viewfinder standard, high standard frame rate. I want it to be able to move fast. I don't want it to lag or anything like that. The frame rate in your camera. Monitor flip direction. So with this being a multi-flipping monitor, with this being a, what is this? So with this being a 4-axis LCD, a lot of times when you're flipping it and changing it and everything, you want the monitor to be able to flip the way you're doing. So if I flip it around, I want it to be able to flip and look orientally exactly how I look at it, or flip it the other way or whatever. So that's why it has to set on auto. All right. Display options. So these I don't really mess with. Again, gamma assist is the only thing I really mess with in here. Remain shooting display. This will always basically tell you what you got coming back up. When I mean come back up, like what you have remaining available, things like that. I have it just off. Auto review, I normally set this to about 5 seconds because I honestly like looking at my picture when I take one until I actually get to the point to where I need to be. Then until I actually get to the point to where I need to be, then I just start shooting. But until I get there, I normally leave that at about 2 to 5 seconds. I think my other ones are set to 2 seconds. But I like to look at my images when I take them sometimes until I got to set up and then I can just shoot. But I like to look at them a little bit and review them after I take the picture a little bit. So auto monitor off does not turn off. I really don't like it turning off. I mean, I don't really know about that, why I would even have it turned off. I have batteries, whatever. Power save start time. You can save time. Auto power temp. A lot of times if you are dealing with something to where your camera is going to overheat, possibly. All right. I don't know. But I always set this to high. That way it can run for longer or whatever and whatever. So I always set my auto power off temp to high. So, all right. Volume settings, I always have my settings pretty much loud as they can go because I like my settings. 4-channel monitoring, which is really great. I use the K3M, so that's when that's really comes like important. But you always want your channel 1 and channel 2. But if you're using something like a K3M where you can monitor like 4-channel audio, you can go in here and set that up. But right now, mine is set to channel 1 and channel 2. Audio signals is on. Definitely want your audio signals on. USB connection mode, select when connect. So when you connect it to USB, you can pick what you want it to be. All right. So that's where you would select that up. So if you need to do live streaming or USB streaming, this is where you will go to that. If it goes to something else and is not recognizing that you're using it as a webcam, this is where you go in there and do that. Mass storage, MTP, all of that stuff is where you do that. USB power supply. So if you set it up, if it's on, is on. If it's off, is off. But this is where you would set it to power supply so it can charge on USB power. HDMI resolution. You can set the resolution for your HDMI out. So if you're doing something and you're running your HDMI out to something else, you can also make sure that you can record actually also in your camera, regardless if it's your HDMI is going out to another feed or something like that. So like right now my HDMI is going out to my Atomos. So if I wanted to record during this time right here, I could also record whatever media in here while I'm also recording to the HDMI out. HDMI info display, which gives, I'm not going to change this because if I do, it's going to turn off the Atomos. So, but this is where if you want your image or your info to be output to a another device, this is where you would change that HDMI info display. This is also how we give you that behind the scenes when we're recording whatever's right off of our sensor. This has to be on, all right? But then again, remember, when you turn that on, the back of your screen goes black, okay? So you won't be able to see nothing, all right? But if you want a clean HDMI output display, then you would just turn this off, and then you will be able to see it on here on your camera, but you can also see it on your monitor that you're going out to, and you will have a clean display, which means none of the stuff that we're showing you right now is going to be on the monitor. This is going to be clean with nothing else. All right. So that's what that is. Control HDMI. So video link, light mode, power link. Don't really deal with any of that. Anti-dust function. So this is where you kind of help clean your sensor. So when shutter, now here's something that's really important also. Shutter when power is off. So the shutter will come down when the power turns off. I have that set to on because anytime I turn off my camera, I don't want that sensor to be exposed to any dust, moisture, or any of that. So that's like a given. That's like kind of like common sense. Always set that shutter when the power is off to have that shutter closed down so you don't really get anything. Protect it as much as you can. Right here is your version. Right now we're on version 1. The lens is version 1. I'm using the Sony lens so I can pick it up. So that's where you would go if you need to do your updates or anything. Privacy notice. Great to be there. And that is it. Woo! That is basically the menu in a nutshell with the new Sony A7R V. I like how Sony kind of went back to the more minimalistic setup because this is kind of just like the A7 IV. It's actually just like the A7 IV. The dials, everything is actually in the exact same place pretty much. But I'm super excited, man. But that is everything in a nutshell about the A7R V. I hope you guys enjoyed that, man. Make sure you comment, like, and subscribe. If you want to see any other things with the A7R V that you want to know, let me know in the comments. And I'm really excited about using it. So I'm going to go through, I'm going to set up a few other different things with my A7R V. Plus, I'm going to set up some video stuff in here. And yeah, I might do a video on that later once this video goes out a little bit. And yeah, that's pretty much going to be it, man. So I hope you guys enjoy that. You remember that you have a few other little things around here like your diopter. So if you wear glasses and you're having a really hard time seeing that image or the image is blurry, make sure you mess with that diopter and dial it in exactly where you need it to so you can get a nice, crisp, clean image. I'm really excited about the 9.44 EVF menu. EVF, man, this just looks absolutely incredible. Just a beautiful, beautiful image, man. So, I mean, I remember playing with this thing and I just could not wait to get this A7R V back in my hands. This is going to be great. I will tell you a few things that I definitely have coming out. We're going to be recording these things in 8K. Now that I have the A1 that shoots 8K and we have the A7R V that shoots 8K, we're going to be doing some 8K comparisons. We're going to be doing some videos in 8K to see how long this V60 card lasts in the Sony A7R V versus in the A1. But again, the A1 can only take a V90 card. So it is what it is. So yeah, I'm super excited, man. And we're going to see what it can do. All right. Until next time, make sure you guys comment, like, and subscribe. It is your boy Brandon, aka the Kevin Hart of photography, because I'm a fool, and I will see you in the next video. I holla.
You're perfect just like you are. Release your control, start to let go. Take a night off and let yourself go a little crazy.